Yesterday, the familiar rhythm of New York City was brutally interrupted. The morning rush in Midtown Manhattan, a symphony of honking taxis, hurried footsteps, and ambitious dreams, turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. In a gleaming skyscraper that scrapes the clouds, a place usually bustling with commerce and innovation, the unthinkable happened. A lone gunman opened fire, shattering the morning calm and leaving a deep, painful wound on the heart of our city. The news spread quickly, first in hushed whispers and frantic text messages, then in blaring headlines that confirmed our worst fears. It was a day that started like any other, but ended as one we will never forget, a stark reminder of how fragile peace can be. This was not a distant event on a television screen. This was here, in our home, in a place that symbolizes the very essence of New York's relentless energy. The building, located just blocks from Times Square, is a landmark of corporate power, housing some of the world's most influential financial and tech firms. Thousands of people pass through its lobby every single day, each with a story, a family, a life they are building. Yesterday, that sense of security was violated in the most profound way. The attack felt personal to every New Yorker because it struck at the core of our shared space. The scale of the violence was staggering and deeply personal. 4 lives were extinguished in a matter of moments. Among them was one of our own, a dedicated officer of the New York Police Department who made the ultimate sacrifice while rushing toward danger to protect others. The other victims were civilians, people who were simply starting their workday, caught in a senseless act of violence. They were colleagues, friends, parents, and children. Their absence leaves an irreplaceable void, not just in the lives of their loved ones, but in the fabric of our entire community. As the sun set over the city last night, an eerie quiet fell over the usually vibrant streets of Midtown. The flashing lights of emergency vehicles painted a somber scene against the darkening sky. For a city that never sleeps, it felt as though New York was holding its breath, united in a collective state of grief. Behind the shocking headlines are the human stories, the faces of those who were taken from us far too soon. We must remember them not as statistics, but for the vibrant lives they lived and the people they loved. One of the victims was Sarah Jenkins, a 42-year-old mother of 2 and a senior marketing executive. Friends describe her as brilliant and kind, a mentor to many young women in her field. She was known for her infectious laugh that would echo through the office hallways. She had just returned from a family vacation and was excited to share photos with her colleagues. Her life was a tapestry of professional success and deep personal joy. We also mourn the loss of David Miller, who was just 28 years old. He was a junior financial analyst, new to the city but already in love with its energy and possibilities. David had moved to New York from a small town in Ohio just 2 years ago, chasing a dream he had held since childhood. His parents said he was the first in their family to graduate from college and move to a big city. He was a source of immense pride and joy for them. Coworkers remember him as the quiet but hardworking young man who was always the first to offer help. The third civilian victim was Maria Flores, a 58-year-old custodian who had worked in the building for over 2 decades. She was a beloved figure, a familiar and friendly face to everyone from the CEO to the mailroom staff. Maria was a grandmother of 6 and the matriarch of a large, close-knit family in Queens. She was just a few years away from retirement and was looking forward to spending more time with her grandchildren and tending to her garden. Maria represented the unsung heroes of our city. These 3 individuals, Sarah, David, and Maria, came from different walks of life. They had different jobs, different dreams, and different stories. Yet, their paths tragically converged in a moment of senseless violence. They were more than just names on a list. They were integral parts of their families, their workplaces, and their communities. In every tragedy, there are heroes who run toward the danger, not away from it. Yesterday, that hero was Officer Michael Chen. At just 32 years old, Officer Chen had served with the NYPD for 8 years, earning a reputation for his bravery, compassion, and unwavering commitment to the people of this city. He was assigned to the Midtown South Precinct, the very heart of the area he swore to protect. When the first 911 calls came in, he and his partner were among the very first to arrive on the scene. Without a moment's hesitation, he entered the building, his only thought to protect the innocent lives that were in peril. He was a true guardian of the city. Officer Chen was more than just a uniform. He was a son, a husband, and a new father. His wife had given birth to their first child, a baby girl, just 6 months ago. Friends and family speak of a man who was overjoyed with fatherhood, whose phone was filled with pictures of his daughter. He was known in his neighborhood in Brooklyn as a friendly neighbor who would always stop to chat and help carry groceries. He coached a local youth basketball team on his days off, believing in the power of community and mentorship. He embodied the very best of the NYPD, serving with integrity and a deep sense of purpose that inspired everyone around him. His service record was exemplary, decorated with several commendations for his courage in difficult situations. That calm and courage were on full display yesterday as he led the initial response team up to the 45th floor. He put himself in harm's way to save others, a selfless act that is the hallmark of a true hero. His final act was one of supreme bravery, a testament to his character and his oath to protect and serve. The loss of Officer Michael Chen is a devastating blow to the entire New York City Police Department and to the city he so proudly served. A sea of flowers and candles now grows outside the Midtown South Precinct Station House, a spontaneous memorial from a grateful city. His name will be added to the sacred wall of heroes who have given their lives in the line of duty. The day began with an unsettling calm before the storm. At approximately 9:05 a.m., the suspect, identified by authorities, used his employee access card to enter the skyscraper. He proceeded directly to the elevators, ascending to the 45th floor where he worked. For a few minutes, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Colleagues greeted him as they prepared for their morning meetings, coffee in hand. The typical sounds of a busy office filled the air, the clicking of keyboards, the ringing of phones, the low hum of conversation. No one could have possibly known the terror that was about to be unleashed in their midst. The first shots rang out at 9:14 a.m. The loud, sharp reports were initially mistaken by some for construction noise or a piece of equipment falling, but the confusion quickly turned to panic as the reality of the situation became horrifyingly clear. The gunman, armed with a semi-automatic handgun, began firing indiscriminately in an open-plan office space. People screamed and dove for cover, hiding under desks and in conference rooms, their morning routines shattered in an instant. The first 911 calls were made at 9:15 a.m., filled with frantic, terrified voices pleading for help. Those calls were the first alert to the outside world of the nightmare unfolding high above the city streets. Within minutes, the building's emergency protocols were activated. An automated announcement advised occupants to shelter in place, and lockdowns were initiated on floors throughout the skyscraper. Below, on the streets of Midtown, the first police sirens could be heard approaching. The first NYPD units, including Officer Michael Chen and his partner, arrived on the scene by 9:18 a.m. Officer Chen and the initial response team made their way to the 45th floor, a journey that must have felt like an eternity. Upon reaching the floor, they were confronted by the gunman. An exchange of gunfire ensued, and it was during this heroic exchange that Officer Chen was fatally wounded. He and his fellow officers were able to neutralize the shooter, bringing the terrifying rampage to an end just before 9:25 a.m. For those who were on the 45th floor, the experience was a terrifying ordeal that will stay with them forever. One survivor, an administrative assistant named Chloe, recounted hiding under her desk, her heart pounding in her chest. She held her breath, listening to the horrifying sounds of gunfire and screams just feet away from her. She sent a text message to her husband that simply said, "I love you," not knowing if it would be her last. Chloe described the silence that fell after the final shots as being almost as terrifying as the noise, a period of agonizing uncertainty before police officers began clearing the rooms and guiding survivors to safety. Another eyewitness, a project manager named Ben, was in a glass-walled conference room when the shooting began. He and 5 colleagues dropped to the floor, pushing a heavy table against the door to barricade themselves inside. He spoke of the sheer randomness of it all, how a normal morning meeting about quarterly goals turned into a fight for survival. Ben recalled making eye contact with a coworker across the room, a shared look of pure terror and disbelief. The sounds from that morning are what haunt many of the survivors. The sudden, deafening cracks of the gunshots, so out of place in the carpeted quiet of an office, were followed by a wave of human panic. One woman described the shattering of glass as bullets hit office partitions. She hid in a small supply closet, pressing herself into the corner and trying to make herself as small as possible. She could hear the gunman walking nearby, and prayed he would not open the door. For what felt like an eternity, she stayed frozen in the darkness. When the immediate danger was over, the ordeal was far from finished. Police officers with their weapons drawn moved methodically through the floor, calling out for survivors. People emerged from their hiding places with their hands in the air, many of them in tears, their clothes disheveled. They were escorted down stairwells, a slow and somber procession of shocked faces. The journey down 45 flights of stairs was a quiet one, a collective descent from a nightmare back into a world that, honestly, no longer felt safe. As the city grieves, investigators are working tirelessly to understand what led to this horrific act of violence. The shooter has been identified by law enforcement as 45-year-old Arthur Hayes, an employee at the tech firm where the shooting took place. Hayes had worked as a software engineer at the company for nearly 10 years. According to police, he had no prior criminal record and had legally purchased the handgun used in the attack several months ago. Colleagues described Hayes as a quiet and reserved individual who mostly kept to himself. He was known for his technical skills but was not seen as particularly social. In recent months, however, some coworkers noted a change in his behavior. Preliminary reports from law enforcement sources suggest that Hayes had recently received a negative performance review and was facing the possibility of being terminated from his position. Investigators are now exploring whether this professional setback was a potential trigger for his violent actions. The investigation is delving deep into Hayes' personal life, searching for any clues that might explain his deadly rampage. Detectives are examining his computers, his social media activity, and his personal communications. So far, there is no indication that he was connected to any extremist groups or ideologies. The attack appears to be a case of workplace violence, born from a place of personal grievance and despair that spiraled into an unspeakable tragedy. They are piecing together the timeline of Hayes' actions in the days and weeks leading up to the shooting. Did he plan this attack meticulously? Were there warning signs that were missed? These are the critical questions that investigators are trying to answer, not only to bring clarity to this specific case, but also to learn lessons that might help prevent future tragedies. The impact of yesterday's shooting extends far beyond the 45th floor. It has sent a shockwave of grief and fear across the entire city. In the offices and cubicles of countless other buildings, conversations today are hushed and somber. Workers are looking at their colleagues differently, with a new awareness of the vulnerability they all share. The sense of routine safety has been fractured. Many companies in Midtown and across the city are offering counseling services to their employees. It's a shared trauma, a collective wound that will take a long time to heal. For the families of the victims, the pain is unimaginable and intensely personal. They are now faced with the impossible task of navigating a future without their loved ones. Children will grow up without a parent, parents will have to bury their child, and spouses are left to face a world that has been irrevocably broken. Their private grief is unfolding on a public stage, adding another layer of difficulty to their suffering. Support has been pouring in from friends, neighbors, and strangers alike, but nothing can fill the void that has been left. The New York Police Department is a family, and it is mourning one of its own. The loss of Officer Michael Chen has devastated his colleagues at the Midtown South Precinct and officers across the 5 boroughs. The black mourning bands worn on their shields are a visible symbol of their collective grief. The department has rallied around Officer Chen's young family, offering its full support as they face the difficult days ahead. Across the city, New Yorkers are finding ways to come together and mourn. Vigils are being planned and makeshift memorials are growing at the base of the office building and outside the police precinct. People are leaving flowers, lighting candles, and writing messages of love and support. In a city often perceived as anonymous and impersonal, this tragedy has revealed its deep well of compassion. It is in these moments of shared sorrow that New York's true character emerges. A city that, when faced with darkness, comes together to share the light. In the wake of this tragedy, our city's leaders have stepped forward to offer comfort, information, and a path forward. The mayor spoke to the city last night, his voice heavy with emotion. He described the shooting as a senseless act of violence that has shaken us to our core. He paid tribute to the bravery of Officer Michael Chen, calling him a true New York City hero who laid down his life for others. His message was not one of politics, but of shared humanity. The police commissioner also addressed the public, providing details of the heroic police response. She spoke with immense pride and profound sadness about Officer Chen's sacrifice. "He ran toward danger without hesitation," she said. "He and his fellow officers saved countless lives yesterday, and we will be forever indebted to them." Community leaders and faith leaders from across the 5 boroughs have also joined in a chorus of grief and a call for peace. At an interfaith prayer service held this morning, representatives from different religions spoke of the need for compassion and understanding. These gatherings provide a space for collective mourning, allowing New Yorkers from all backgrounds to find solace and strength in community. The call for unity is not just a top-down directive, it is a grassroots movement of ordinary New Yorkers reaching out to one another. The official statements give voice to the city's collective sorrow and its resilient spirit. They remind us that while we may be wounded, we are not broken, and that we will face the days ahead together, as one city. Today, our city is draped in sorrow. The weight of what happened yesterday is heavy on our hearts. We mourn for Sarah and David and Maria, whose lives were filled with purpose and love. We mourn for Officer Michael Chen, a hero who made the ultimate sacrifice. We grieve with their families, whose worlds have been shattered. The pain of this loss is real and it is deep. It is a wound that will leave a permanent scar on the memory of our city. We must allow ourselves the time and space to grieve, to process this tragedy, and to honor those we have lost. But even in our darkest moments, the spirit of New York endures. This is a city that has faced adversity time and time again, and each time it has emerged stronger and more united. Our resilience is not just a slogan, it is woven into the very fabric of who we are. It is seen in the first responders who run toward danger, in the strangers who offer a helping hand, and in the communities that rally around those who are suffering. It is a spirit of defiance against those who would seek to instill fear and division. Moving forward will not be easy. The road ahead will be long, and it will require patience, compassion, and a commitment to healing. We must support the survivors who carry the invisible wounds of trauma. We must support the families who are navigating an ocean of grief. We must support our police officers who have lost a brother. We must have the difficult conversations about how to prevent such tragedies from happening again. This is the work that lies before us, the work of rebuilding our sense of safety and community, one act of kindness at a time. Out of this profound grief, we must find a glimmer of hope. That hope lives in the compassion we show one another. It lives in the unity we build in the face of hatred. It lives in our shared determination to make our city a safer, more caring place for everyone. The lights of New York may have dimmed for a moment, but they will never be extinguished. We will honor the memory of the victims not by succumbing to despair, but by living with greater purpose, greater kindness, and a renewed commitment to one another. We are New York, and we will get through this, together.